Hi, Matt. We're still waiting on John, and I'm assuming Naomi's still an apology.
Do you want me to give John a call?
Yeah, might be.
He just text me just to confirm she's an apology.
Who was that?
Who's that?
Naomi is an apology.
Righto. John.
Just want to pause streaming.
Hey, Andre.
Oh, it's Goldie.
Goldie.
Is that somebody's computer going beep, beep, beep? Is it me?
Roger, is Andrew an apology tonight?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that as soon as we kick off. Yeah.
Okay. I just had a look at the email invitation for this meeting, and there was an email address I didn't recognise, a maxrich60@yahoo.com.au.
Yeah, that's my home email, Adam.
Oh, okay. All right. No, that's cool.
I wasn't getting the Zoom link.
He's changed his name after the footy last Friday.
Roger.
Are we ready to go?
I hope you don't lose a game again.
You let me know.
Yep, good.
We're about to go.
Okay, just have to ask everyone to mute their microphones. Roger. Richard isn't.
Going to mute everyone. All good. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Budget Information Workshop. We have apologies from John Rich. Can't seem to get hold of him at this stage. Councillor Naomi Bittner, and of course Andrew's away, so he's an apology. So to kick off proceedings, we'll hand things straight over to Sid, and he can walk us through the draft budget.
Thanks, Rog. So I've provided in soft copy and hard copy, and also through SharePoint, a number of documents. The first document that I provided was, you can see this, probably not. There would be the reconciliation to the LTFB, which is an overall reconciliation of the budget and where we sit. Oh, okay, yeah. No, that's not the one. It's the first tab. Yes, right. So that's the first document I would have given. I would have provided. That shows us a full reconciliation where we currently sit in cash terms, including operating and capital. And I'll park that for a few minutes. We'll come back to it later, and I'll go through it once we've been through the individual lists of projects and so forth. But just quickly, in a nutshell, the LTFB operating deficit, the revised LTFB proposed a deficit of just under 1.8 mil. The current budget, 22-23 proposed budget operating deficit sits at 1.54 mil, which leaves a surplus of 252,000. If we add into it the operating one-off projects, which I've supplied a list and we'll go through tonight, add to that the Caravan Park operating one-off projects, again, I've provided a separate list. And then we've been advised recently, very recently, that we're getting supplementary local roads funding for another year in 22-23, so we've put that back in the budget. That leaves us with an adjusted surplus of just under 315,000. Then we bring the capital side of things in, projects, replacement, renewal projects, and new and upgrade. And once we put those in, we'll sit with an adjusted surplus of slightly over 32,000. And again, the capital projects I've provided separate for each of those. The other if you could go to the next one, please, Matt, the next tab. Yep. And then the report, the funded capital projects budget report, which is how many pages is that? That's about eight pages. That one, the first page is a reconciliation or a summary of what is proposed compared to the long-term financial plan. At the bottom of that, it shows that compared to the long-term financial plan in terms of renewal and upgrade and new, we need a further $283,000 compared to the LTFB, more than what the LTFB made available. And then following that is a list of all the capital projects that are currently in the draft budget, that are funded in the draft budget. They're split by asset class. So we can have a look at that after this. And then the next document I've provided is a list of all operating projects, one-off operating projects that are currently included in that are currently funded in the draft budget. Another document that I've provided is the Caravan Park project, both operating and capital project lists. Councillors will remember that last year Council endorsed a funding framework for caravan parks, we can talk about that when we get to the projects. And then the last report that I've provided is all the unfunded projects that were considered as part of the 22-23 budget, but obviously didn't make it for a variety of reasons. Were not funded, so they've been parked on an unfunded list. And just a reminder, in the past, councillors have come back to this unfunded list when grant funding is being made available for big projects to utilise that grant funding. So, having said that, I think we can get straight into the funded capital projects list. And given it's a fairly long list, I'm thinking rather than go through line by line, we can look at individual projects that elected members might want to look at. If that's the way that we want to go. Just to note, transport, we have already discussed through the provision of the map last week. So those ones are fairly straightforward at this stage.
Everybody happy to do that?
Just say from 1 through 15, I think we'll go with them.
So projects 1 through to 15 were included on the map that was provided last week. 1 through to 14, sorry, 15 is separate. Yeah, sorry, 1 through to 14 were all on the map.
Adams, you got a question there, Adam?
Yes, I do. Thanks, Sid. You just took 15 out. I was going to ask a question about 15. The paving for the Stansbury, we're looking at $47,000 there. When I looked at the spreadsheet on SharePoint, the next item was Edithburgh had put in a request for paving, and that hadn't been considered because there'd been a fair bit of paving across the network in the last couple of years. So I suppose my question is, why would one get a Guernsey but not the other?
I'd have to throw that to Andre, I suppose. Andre or Goldie for that one.
Yeah, I'm not aware why it got removed. Sorry, Sid.
It has, so just item 15 in the staff comments, that particular project, what we've been told is addresses a safety issue and also reduce maintenance. There is currently, I believe, there is currently nothing there, and we are putting in a footpath, whereas the other one is a renewal of an existing footpath. And I stand to be corrected, but I believe that's the case. Andre may wish to comment.
If I could maybe give some further, it's on the slope going down the hill, the main drag going down past where the supermarket is. It's quite a wide footpath verge. It just looks like crusher dust or that blue metal, fine blue metal, which I believe is similar. And I think Millerton were also looking for some work to be done on one of their streets as well. And I think one of the towns were looking for some curbing because they didn't even have any curbing, whereas I believe the Stansbury location has curbing. I think it was just a case of, look, I've got to explain to why we would approve one project over another when they seem to be very similar. And one says we don't do it because of the fact we've done a lot of footpathing, which we did with the grant funding we've had. And then another one does get a Guernsey. Yeah, if I could get some assistance in explaining that to the public, it'd be great.
I might be able to add maybe a little bit there.
Goldie might have something to say.
Goldie?
Yeah, I think it was based on the risk, like the Stansbury down the hill is a lot bigger risk, and we've had some incidents there. So I think that's why it got put up in front of the others.
And when we look online at our booklet, we don't see any details of those incidents. So that makes it a bit trickier for us to. Now, we don't want subjective comments. We need to have facts that we can base it all on, I suppose, is what I'm asking for. If there's been some incidences and we had it detailed in the booklet or in the actual proposition, that'd make it easier for us. We wouldn't need to ask this question, maybe.
This was put in by the Stansbury Progress. This wasn't a staff request, so they put in obviously whatever request they put in, and they attached whatever documents they had.
Adam, I do know
Noted.
too that they have, Stansbury Progress have raised that issue of that footpath a couple of times in the Access Committee as well. So that's probably gave it a bit more of a tick as well. Michael, did you have a question? You want to unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, you're up.
You can hear me now then?
Yeah.
Certainly I know a little bit about this with the Stansbury Progress, that as you said, they have put in requests many times for the paving we've done there. I did see the Edithburg request, and I did notice that it was rejected as well. Was there a contribution from Edithburg Progress to that? The Stansbury Progress of funding $10,000 of that?
I don't believe Edithburg is putting anything in. We're just confirming that. No.
I was just trying to find it. I couldn't see it there, Sid, but I hear what Adam's saying, and I did notice it, but I can't put my finger on it right now. But I don't know if there was any Stansbury putting $10,000 towards it. So I think that would that have helped, perhaps?
Well, possibly. Darren, have you got something to add about Edithburg?
Only that I believe it's the one across the road from like where the police station is. That's my understanding, is at Edithburg. I know that the other side of the street has been recently done from the post office down to the war memorial. So maybe one thought would be at least one side of the street is done there. It does need to be saying that it does need to be done, but whether it gets up the top of the priority, that might be a consideration as well. There is a good footpath on one side of the street there.
Can I just clarify that the Edithburg Progress is not putting in any contribution towards that? And it says continuing the paving on the southern side of Edith Street from True Ridge Hotel to the Flora Park.
Yeah, and that most of that footpath isn't actually paved at all. Some of it is near the hotel, but then it goes to like a gravel for some, and then some paving. So it's probably half done, I'd say.
Michael?
I missed what you said, Sid. Did Edith Berg put any funding towards or it's just
No funding.
the Stansbury Progress had spoken to me several times about it, and basically I said to them I didn't think there was any chance of getting across unless they made a contribution. And I think they've spoken to, I obviously spoke to some of the council, I'm not sure it was Goldie or who they'd spoken to, and worked with them and come up with a figure of 10,000. I think that was probably the reason that they probably got it across the line.
Well, it's certainly listed here at the moment. Well, we're in your hands. You want to pick this up or not? At this point, we'll run with it then. Is everybody happy to go that way?
I can't quite see it. I can only see the screen of the actual shared screen, but maybe can you can see everyone there, Roger? Can you?
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah, okay. Do you want to go with a show of hands or something just to see?
I'm happy to go with a show of hands. To go, yeah, this is to keep it in. Show of hands. John, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Yeah,
7,
majority.
8.
Majority is to go with it at this stage.
So we'll leave it in.
We'll leave it in for now.
All right.
Tanya, did you have a question?
Yes, I was just going to suggest, but it doesn't matter. Most people are comfortable to leave it in. I was going to say perhaps we could park it, and then as we're going through, it might be something we come back to. I guess there's a lot of paving.
Yeah, we
A
can
lot
do
of
that.
paving required around the place, so I'm not sure. That's the only paving that I can see that we've allocated. So I'm not sure why that necessarily gets a priority over all the other paving that we might need around the place. But I guess we've got to start somewhere. So yeah.
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 All right. We can park that for now.
Yeah.
And come back to it. Okay. Moving along. In the next category, land building the structures. Not rather than going through line by line. Are there just through the second page, please, Maddie? Are there any questions on the land building structures category? There's 3 projects there, numbers 16 through to 18.
Keep going down. Yep. Page 2, it's got all written.
Yeah.
Page 3, yep, keep going. Yeah. So just a show of hands if you're happy with numbers 16 through to 18 to stay as is. Yeah.
That one there. So, yeah, all good to go.
Yep, all right, we'll move
All right,
on.
we'll move on.
CWMS projects starting at number 19 through all the way to 29. So bottom of page 2, all the way through to the end of page 3. Again, reasonably straightforward. Again, happy to answer any questions or discuss any individual items. Otherwise, just a show of hands to indicate if we can pick those and move on.
All good?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We'll move on.
And then moving on to page 4, there's no water infrastructure projects. Under stormwater on page 4, items 30 through to 32. Again, happy to take any questions before we move on.
Just have a question, if that's okay.
Yep.
This is probably for Andre. Number 30. The Edithburgh Park Terrace, that definitely needs something done on there. And I can see it's a multiple year project. It's got $100,000 there. Is that for anything in particular, Andre, or is that design, or is that what's the process in that? How you see that unfolding?
Okay, we've got only $100,000 allocated there at this point in time because physically we don't have the design back, and we do not have an estimate on the quantum of works that's going to be envisaged. Now, look, just look, going through the extent of what needs to be done ultimately, and Goldie and I and the designers have talked through this a number of times, and you'll recall, Darren, in my office, I talked you through basically what our concept was, and there's more than $100,000 worth of work there, just in, probably multiples of that in terms of construction. So just recognizing that we need to do work there. Normally what you would do is that you would start at the outlet end. You would make sure that the area that you're going to drain to or drain into is sorted first. And probably what you would do as part of the first stage is that you'd go and erect or institute these, I suppose, raising of little levees, if I can call them that, along the footpath, and to simply facilitate some sort of protection against flooding right into houses. So look, there's going to need to be a prioritisation of the works, Darren, and it'll be a case of if that's the starting budget, we'll do what we can for this year and probably the balance the following financial year. But first things first, we need to get the design back and we need to get it costed.
Thanks, Andre.
Is everybody happy with that? Show of hands, move on.
So happy to move on
Yeah.
for 30, 31 and 32. Okay, next asset class is major plant and fleet vehicles, items 33 through to 40. Again, happy to take questions on individual items.
Anybody got any queries? Everybody okay with that then? Show of hands, we move on. Right.
Okay, minor plant, there's just the one item. If there's no questions, we're happy to move on.
I just don't know, what's the magnetic frame?
Andre, throw that over to Andre or Goldie.
Yes. Okay, Goldie, you want to have a crack at this one, or I can share it around with you if you like?
All yours, Andre, not mine.
Okay, no worries, all good. So look, it's just something that's towed behind a tractor, right? It's basically just an attachment for our.
Yeah, no, I understand. I remember now. Yes, sorry. I had something else in my head for some reason. I thought, what sort of frame? And as soon as you said tow behind it, it clicks. Okay. Thanks.
Happy to move on then.
Okay, furniture and fittings, items 42 and 43. Again, if there's no questions, are you happy to move on?
Just show of
Show of
hands.
hands, please. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. IT 44 through to 49. Again, pretty standard, most of them are replacement of existing equipment. Happy to, again, take questions on individual items.
Oh, everybody happy with that? Show of hands.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
And last but not least, the other assets category, 50 through to 51, just 50 and 51. Again, a couple of projects there. Happy to take questions, otherwise we can move on.
You got a question, Adam?
Sorry, might be lost here. I was looking at, because the first number is that
50 and 51.
we go back to the previous item. Sorry, I've missed one on my notes. The drone and licensing.
Yep, 49. Yep, number 49.
Is that 39 or 49?
49.
49.
49. Okay, excellent. I'm just curious, like looking at the drone and the camera, you're looking at a $20,000 thing. How long ago did we get those prices? Because we've had a recent release of an item that might do it for about $8,000.
I can speak to that, Adam. I think the most recent quote would have been in the last 8 weeks. So this particular drone has a gimbal with multiple attachments on it. We'll use this as a multi-purpose drone, not only for we can do development applications and oversights, but also aerial imagery, bush camping facilities as well. We can use it for marketing purposes. Additionally, it's been used successfully in the past that we're aware of with bird control. So we're all very aware of the cormorant issues. It's been utilised with the Western Australian Police for surveillance. The actual attachments that we're looking at, flashing lights, siren, which can be managed remotely through an application. So you can have different siren applications for it. Lights can be changed. It's quite a versatile drone.
Yeah.
This cost that you see, which is involved in that, is also with the licensing fees, not only just for the council, but for licence operators.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Sorry, Adam, you just frozen. You just froze then, sorry.
The 120 metres of the red number plate, because it zooms in relation to the bird control, I think is something that model doesn't cover. So, no, I appreciate that. It sounds like you've looked into it quite well. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay, so moving on from item 50 and 51, the last one is 52. Now, councillors will note that this project is budgeted in 21-22, but has been delayed and hasn't commenced. We have rebudgeted that in 22-23 in its entirety, including the grant funding and council's contribution via a loan. So happy to take any questions. Or we can move on.
Everybody happy to move on?
Yeah, so we've parked item 15 for now. We will come back to that at the end of the session.
Yeah.
So what we'll go through next is this sheet here, which has got the green highlight at the top, the operating budget bids and projects with the green highlight on the top.
Something in chat. Is that anything?
Have you got that fired up now on the screen? You need to fire it up. You need to fire it up, mate, on the screen.
Did you send that to?
Yeah, oh, it's all the same email because there's files, different videos. So we're just getting that up on screen.
I'm just sharing for a second.
Stop.
Just bear with us while we're getting it up on the screen for you.
I just wonder if you should unshare that while you're playing around in there.
Just unshare the screen. Was there any general questions regarding the documents that were sent out while we were waiting?
If I can ask, please, Sid, we've got the capital projects and everything for the caravan park projects. Are we going to be going through that individually, or is that just for our information because of the new asset management plan in relation to caravan parks?
That'll be, I guess that'll be at the discretion of councillors. If they've got individual projects they want to talk about, we can do that. Yeah, certainly in the councillors' hands.
Yeah, we can go there if you want. If there's something. No.
That's the whole idea of the asset management plan. It's just that we've got the documents in front of us. I didn't know if we were going to be reviewing them or not, but
Not the intention was to review
I think that's how it should be.
Yeah, we had no intention
The
to actually
intention wasn't to
review it.
go through line by line. It was only a particular project that someone had a question about. We'd be able to provide it.
I've got it now.
He does.
No, it doesn't. Michael wants a question.
Michael, unmute yourself.
It's that email, Matt, to send.
Yeah.
You want to take questions on the item, the 10 items in the operating budget bids and projects?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're just waiting to load that up.
Line it up and then we'll go through
Okay.
it on.
Yeah, it's the operating budget bids. Just put them all up, Matt.
It's bright green.
Right, green at the top. Just, if you just open them all up, we'll just flick through them. Yeah, that one. That one?
Yeah. Okay.
Blow that up a bit. Go one more. That's good.
Yeah.
Right, so what you're seeing on the screen is the operating budget bid / projects, the one-off requests for the operating budget. So this one I think we'll go through line by line. The first one is a project to upgrade Walk the York. Now, and perhaps Ben can talk more about this. I'll throw it over to Ben to explain what the money's for.
Yeah, so this is increasing, I guess, the usage of Walk the York, extending on the current platform, which is obviously the Walk the York, and now to further develop that branding and messaging, which is to actually ride the York in sections of that and continue promotion.
So happy to take any questions before we move on. No?
Everybody happy to move on? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Number 2 is the Cormorant Management Investigations and Plan, and at this stage, total cost of 50,000, expecting council, non-council funding, either grants or contributions of about 20, hoping to get a little bit of that.
Just so I can add into that one, so Andrew's been talking with Barunga West. We're hoping for a $5,000 commitment from them. We did get 10,000 from Landscape SA. We have that, and Andrew's also put a request into due for another 20,000. We're not so sure that we're going to get it, but we put the request in there and we'll see what comes out. So if everybody's happy with that, we'll move on. All good? Yep.
Okay. Number 3, again, I'll throw this to Roger in a minute, but it's a contractor ranger resource, so additional weekend contract ranger compared to, I guess, similar to the one we have now, Deb Queerbank. So this cost here is the total cost, employee cost plus any equipment and other overheads. And you'll also notice that we've added an additional vehicle that will be added to the fleet in the capital request that we just went through. So that is separate to this cost.
So again, I don't know that this needs much more explanation. I think we're pretty well aware of what's happening out there at the moment. And this particular person will be based in the northern part of York Peninsula, while Deb covers the southern part. So happy to take any questions. All good? Michael?
That's
sorry,
that's basically 0.4 of a position.
0.37?
Yeah,
Weekend position
Yes.
at $64,000, $65,000.
Yeah. So that the FTE is exactly the same as our current weekend ranger, Deb Furbank. Now, 64,884, that's rounded to 65, includes about $10,000 for additional plant costs. We're adding a new vehicle to the fleet, so the cost for that, the running cost, plus things like computers, laptops, phones, desk chairs, all that stuff. And the employee costs includes the weekend loading rates. Because they're working weekends, they're getting loading on top of the standard.
Oh,
rates.
sure, I get that, but when I saw that figure at 65,000 for basically 0.4 of a job, you start calculating in your head and it gets up pretty hell, I'd probably work full time at that.
Yeah, staff, in the staff comments, we've been said, we've made the comment includes allowance for IT equipment, etc. Because they'll need to be set up with all of that.
Okay. All right.
Christine?
Sorry, my question was also going to be exactly what Michael said, but also it's purchasing a new vehicle. So is that only going to be used on this 0.67 job, or is that going to be used during the week?
Oh, look, it could be a little bit of a mixture, but mainly it's going to be for.
It'll be available on the weekends for that purpose, but during the week, it'll be a pool vehicle available for anyone that books it through the pool booking system. That would be the way we'd use it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? You happy to move on from there? Okay, we'll move on.
We'll move on. Number 4, the Middlegowie Jump Flat Management Plan. So this, councillors will remember that we recently completed and endorsed a plan. This $10,000 will start the ball rolling on doing some works out of that plan. And again, Goldie may be the person to add more to this. Goldie?
Yeah, no, it's just, development as exactly like you said, Sid. Not a real lot to add. It's a really good project for the community. Certainly got a lot of Indigenous involvement within the Narungga Nations as project partners. So I think it's a good step forward for our council to be heading down this avenue.
Everyone happy to accept that and move on? Yeah. Okay.
Number 5 over the page, strategic coastal risk study, I dropped some cliff erosion review, $5,000, and I probably throw it over to Andre or Goldie. Not sure.
Look, I'll pipe in here and just say to you that, look, it pretty well is spelt out in the comments there as to what we're trying to do. I mean, there's been a bit of history of movement along those cliffs. We've moved back the tracks, walked the York tracks several times, and it's quite appropriate to go and do some sort of an investigation as to, the rate of progression of movement, so that we can try and model that into the future and make appropriate decisions on any sort of asset upgrades and the like. So it's a small amount of money, but it's a necessary spend amount of money.
Everybody happy with that?
Goldie's waving his hand as well.
All right, Goldie.
I'd just like to add to exactly, that's right what Andre said, but it's come out of our strategy, the strategy that we've developed with Wavelength across the whole peninsula. And this is one of our sort of low cost wins that we need to undertake to be in line with, keeping with what the strategy is recommending. So all good.
Everybody happy with that? Move on. Yep.
Number 6, economic development tourism strategy, business enhancement program, 40,000 for that, and I'll let Ben speak on that one.
Yeah, so this is a further continuation onto the endorsed economic development and business strategy. Council endorsed just recently. We've run the first of what was envisaged to be many business enhancement program workshops, well received from the outset. Something for us to leverage off. This funding allocation will not only go to allowing us to further onto those workshops, but also allow us to conduct further surveys. We'll engage with specialists in the area which have been identified, such as IT specialists for business, improving marketing opportunities in store, branding opportunities, etc. So I think it's a great opportunity for the peninsula.
I might just add, if I could.
Yeah.
Yep. I went to the what was it, seminar? An event on Monday night with a I don't know, was it 40 odd businesses, I think, there. The collaboration with YP Tourism and RDA was extremely good in just getting that to grassroots people and the amount of interest. And from my perspective, I think that was a really good event and a starting point for us to really help businesses in around the peninsula. So it's got my tick, that one.
Everybody happy to accept that and move on? Yeah, okay.
Okay. Number 7, the Reconciliation Action Plan. Again, I think Goldie, would you want to speak to that, or you?
Really, it was this was one from Andrew. It seems to be something that we really need to be doing. We need to contribute to the reconciliation for both internally and to the community, and it also is part of the strategic document for the Sports Council's strategic and business plan. So that's from Andrew. His recommendation is that we need to be doing that. I would think everybody agrees with that. Happy to accept and move on. Yep.
Number 8 is the Road Asset Condition Assessment System. That's a 3-year lease of a RACUS unit at $24,500 per year. And again, I can, Andre is best placed to comment about that, if there's any questions.
Any questions about that? Happy to accept and move on? Yeah.
The decommissioning of the fuel tank at the Balgowan kiosk. It's a risk work and safety requirement, so 15,000 has been budgeted for that.
Any questions, Adam?
Is that part of the caravan park there, or is that separate from the caravan park?
Separate.
Okay, that's why it's in this area. Thank you.
Righto, move on.
Move on to number 10, the Stage 3 Middleton and District Sports Complex, a contribution of 50,000 to the tennis club for the new Middleton Sporting Complex. And again, I'm not sure, Roger, Ben,
do you
talk a bit more about
that one? Bit?
Can do, yeah. So as we'd be aware, we've been successful in getting grant funding for the childcare facility. Fortunately for the Middleton Sports Complex, that's right where the tennis club currently is for the juniors. They're well underway with the progress of their new facilities across the road in some way. But I think for them to accelerate into increasing the opportunities with the tennis courts for the juniors and others, where the amount of participants is flowing over into the school and also into those tennis courts areas, particularly for the juniors. If you take away that asset, then where will the juniors go? So I think an in-kind donation to the Middleton Tennis Club will help that. Again, not too long ago for the Building Better Regions Fund, if this childcare funding wasn't successful, we were willing to fund 400K as our investment for to get this up. So I think a $50,000 in-kind donation to the tennis club would go some way.
Is there any questions about that? Okay. Adam?
I'm going to ask the devil's advocate question here, is that we've been requested funding for tennis courts in the past, for Edithburgh, I think Yorktown, they've all had to fund it themselves and find grant funding. This was going to be built as part of the new facility anyway, so did they not have the funding for this in there, I suppose, is one question. The other question is, it's on this list as $50,000, but when I just had a quick squiz at the booklet of all the applications and so forth, it was a request for $100,000 in that. So I suppose it's a double question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, the initial request from the tennis club was for 100,000. We've held preliminary discussions with the club, and we've I guess what we were alerting them to the fact is that it's probably not going to happen because of the facts that you were just saying then, Adam. They're quietly confident that with the generosity of the community that they'll be able to find that the difference.
I guess with the community development, like that was around about stage 3 of their proposal, so it's some way down the line. Whereas now we're dealing with the childcare centre, we need that site, and they have so many juniors involved now. Like their numbers have grown exponentially, and it's really putting some pressure on that. You know, they could potentially lose these juniors if they don't have a go-to court apart from what they've got at the school. And the school's been gracious enough to have them at the stage, but this is only a short-term thing. Like once we start, they won't have anywhere for them to go.
So we're looking at contributing $50,000 on a $283,000 project for a sporting facility.
Yeah, to try and get, so we can move on the childcare centre site.
Excellent. No, thank you very much for the clarification.
Michael? Yeah.
I think that's a good point made by Adam about the funding that's gone to both the Yorktown and the Edithburgh tennis clubs in the past when, well, there hasn't been a lot funding from the council, which is fair enough. This is completely different, I think, because there's a couple of points I'd like to make. Firstly, I agree with Adam. I saw that it was $100,000 in the project detailed summary to start with, and then it's come back to 50, which I thought was, I was going to query why it had dropped. But more importantly, what's happened here is that site is where the tennis courts are now. So which is a great thing, we've got this beautiful funding for the childcare centre, which is absolutely outstanding and fantastic. But there is a cost for the local community because I've lost the tennis courts. So I thought initially that when I read that through the $100,000, I thought $100,000 is probably fair because they're losing 4 tennis courts for the childcare centre. And as Ben said, I couldn't remember the figure, but I knew we had committed or talked about putting some funding towards the childcare centre, and as he just said, it's $400,000. So surely out of that $400,000, I'd like to see that number boosted up to $100,000, because I don't know if anyone's been and had a look there. There's been a heap of work done there, heaps of work done in kind. But if they could get that extra $50,000 into that, that will finish off the whole shooting match. And look, it's just a magnificent complex, and there's been a heap of work done there. And I'd like to see it back to the original proposal from the project detail summary back to $100,000. That would be my request to the other members, because I think that it's fair, because as I said, they're losing their tennis courts, and we were talking about perhaps making a contribution of up to $400,000 to the childcare centre earlier. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Tanya?
Oh, yeah, thanks, Roger. Just go on the back of Adam and Michael's comments. The proposal talks about a contribution to tennis and netball courts. So I was just wondering whether any funding, like whether there's netball courts factored into the original proposal and that is already funded. But I also appreciate that if we committed to providing funding to this project in the first place, that we can follow through with that as well. But just clarifying that the money is sort of allocating being allocated to the Millerton Tennis Club, but it's for tennis and netball courts. So I'm not quite sure whether it's obviously the netball and tennis courts would be shared, I would imagine.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
But has that funding been captured? Were they intending on building? I would have thought netball courts would have been part of the original proposal.
Yeah, so they are a multi-purpose facility, Tanya, as you suggest. the current facility where the childcare centre is going is only for tennis. And so I guess, so planting the tennis courts over to the new facility, it'll be a multi-purpose one. As you'd understand, tennis doesn't happen during the winter, so it'll be utilised by the netball club at the same time. Bringing, I guess, the ideal situation where you have the football club right alongside the netball club instead of them being separated.
I can just add to that, the request, the original request that was put up on SharePoint does have the plans attached to their request. So so I'm not sure if that shows what the design is. It's got a detailed design attached to it.
Yeah. So was the proposal originally to include, I thought, I know I might be wrong, that the original proposal was to bring the tennis courts to that complex anyway?
Yeah, as a stage development. No, it's not the early stages. It was around about stage 3 of it. So that's some way down the line. But now, because of the funding for the childcare centre, things are getting pressured to move things along a bit.
Maybe I've had a look at the courts. I believe they'd probably use the current courts. They'd probably only use 2 of the 4. I would say 2 are unusable for tennis or for netball. Would that be correct? So I think we're talking about 2 courts in use, just to give a little bit of perspective there.
Just from my observations playing bowls next door, I've only ever seen 2 courts used. I
was there when the minister came over, and the gaps on there, like craters on 2 of the courts, and I could be wrong, but I would say they'd probably use 2 of them. Yep.
And as we understand too, they play netball at the school courts as well.
Yep.
So, Leanne?
I'm probably agreeing with Michael's comments about the 100,000, looking at their proposal that the Middleton Tennis Club have given, the costing. It is costing a lot of money, but it's going to be a massively fabulous asset for the community. So I'd be agreeing with the 100,000 to help them to get it moving along, because even just the fencing, I think, was like 43,000 just for the fencing around it. So it will be costly, but there's a lot of people helping. But I'd be in agreement with the 100,000. Thanks.
Can I ask? Can I put Anthony on the spot if you got any insight into this?
Anthony, I'm not sure what he's.
Yep. Yeah, you got me.
Can't see you. We can't see you, Anthony.
Can't see me. What have I done?
I don't know.
What about
there you
that?
go.
No, just
Change the camera.
Just switch your camera back.
Switch your camera. That's it.
Gotcha.
Better off? I was
Yes.
wondering why you couldn't see my hand. No worries. Well, the facility, I'm passionate about this. I've got to put forward that I am on the committee for this. So when this does come to a vote or anything, I will not take part in it or anything. But the new facility is going to provide netball change rooms, which is going to be a first for the peninsula. There's a few things. The tennis courts are in use on social. There's been a few social events held there where they use all 4 tennis courts, and the skill set out there doesn't matter how big the crater is anyway. But they do get used a bit, if it's incorporated with the whole vibe of things with the tennis, that area is going, and if it's moved, as you say, it was a stage 3, which was unfunded and everything else. We managed to get a grant for $450,000, which was like for like, and we've pulled $450,000 out of the community, which shows terrific support. And if you look at the Facebook page, I don't get on it much, but if anything's put on there, that something's happened up there, people just turn up. And people are coming in on Sunday drives just to have a look at the progress of it. So as I say, I want to be part of the debate and I'm passionate for it, but I do share a conflict of interest being so closely associated with it. So that's where I stand on it. Thank you.
So, councillors, Adam?
Can I maybe make a suggestion that we've got some ideas of funding of footpaths, that maybe we park that for another larger project for grant applications later, and maybe some of that money that was being put aside for that could go to this project, which is, I'd suggest, of a higher need time frame wise. It's a project that's happening right now, and we've pushed it along because of the Childcare Centre wonderful news. So one solution would be something we've parked aside previously, maybe go towards this project to help it push along quicker and make it happen.
So what if I'm based on what Adam just said, what we can do is increase number 10 on the operating budget list to 100,000, and put item 15 from the capital list, the footpath for Stansbury, on the unfunded list, and that would virtually make us the overall reconciliation would remain at around the $30,000 surplus. So there wouldn't be much change.
That would be my suggestion, and we could still keep that Stansbury project on the list going forward.
Yeah.
And maybe we could find a funding source to help get some multiple projects across the peninsula like we have previously.
Yeah, we'll park it on the unfunded list, and if grant funding is likely to become available during the year, federal funding, we can use the unfunded list to use the grant funds.
Is everybody happy with that? Let's see a show of hands.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Anthony's still.
On a question. That's right.
Yeah. Yes, Michael.
Is it okay to go ahead?
Yes.
I know the funding's got to come from somewhere, but I think that the Stansbury Progress has shown that they're prepared to make a decent contribution towards that paving, and that road isn't all that footpath is pretty bad on both sides of the road. They're proposed to do one side, and that's something they have been talking about. I'd like to try and see the funding come from somewhere else if we possibly could, please. I think that they're both needed.
Can I just say there's a strong chance there will be some funding available in the next few months.
Oh, thanks for that, Sid. That'll do. So long. Thank you. Yeah, no worries. I'm happy.
Right.
Yes.
Moving on, we'll move on to the next PDF, and I'll just get back to the Caravan Park project. So the next one we'll look at the Caravan Park project. If that's the one. So just wait for that. Maybe go once more. Yeah, perfect. So the one up on the screen in the pink highlight is the other Caravan Park projects, and just reminding elected members that a model was adopted for Caravan Park funding and how projects would be dealt with. So it was basically, the model was basically showing, or the way it was set up was operating income less all operating expenditure. So expenditure required to run the park plus any overheads in terms of staff and loan principal repayments. Take that away from the operating income, reduce the operating income by, pay a 10% dividend back to council, and that 10% was based on the total revenue generated by the caravan parks, and anything that was left after that in the pot was to be spent on capital renewal projects or other projects as seen here. So the total bucket for caravan parks is just over 379,000, as that blue highlight shows at the top of the page. And then we've got a list of capital projects 1 through to 13 totaling just under 311,000. And then we've got a list of operating projects, 14 through to 21 on page 4, totaling $68,500. The intention is not to go through line by line, but to take questions on individual projects if there are any at this stage.
Tanya,
thanks, Sid. I'm not sure whether it's there somewhere and I've missed it. We allocated, I think it was around $100,000 for a project to do with SA Water, I think, for Port Rickaby, and that was going to be included in this year's budget. Is that there somewhere?
yeah,
Sorry, should have clarified that. That bucket of money at the top, 379,363, is net of the 100,000. So we've already removed the 100,000 from what was available from the pot, and then we're left with 379,363. That $100,000 project is in this year's budget and has commenced, and any unspent funding will be rolled to next year.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
any other questions? Everybody's good with that? Excellent. All right.
Roger.
Margaret?
Yeah, it's just me again. Sorry. Couple of things in the caravan budgets, which I'm sure you're probably expecting to hear from me anyway. The first one was, it was interesting, and Leanne was talking about the Black Point Caravan Park the other day, running at a loss. And I remember last year I went and had a look at the fence around the caravan park, and I don't remember allocating $3,000 towards it, but certainly I'm not in favour of spending $15,000 to put a fence around the caravan park when the fence I've got there is actually fine. I actually took some photos last year and it hasn't changed much since then, I'm sure. So I would not support that. The other one was, which is the same as last year again too, was the one at Point Turton, when they're going to put the amenities block up the top where the bigger caravans go. And I wasn't in favour of that last year because I didn't think it was going to service enough people, because the main section on the top of that caravan park is for bigger type vans or campers or holiday homes, which all have inbuilt bathrooms and toilets. The other thing was, I think I read somewhere else too that they were putting in the toilets for the community toilets at the boat ramp. Is that in this as well? That was in somewhere else, but they were talking about putting in, where we're talking about or had budgeted for, I beg your pardon, public toilets at the boat ramp. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, that was from previous year's budget, Michael.
So, but in that, when I read through that, there was talk that they were going to, because the public toilets, well, if anyone wants a public toilet, now they go in the caravan park. And they were saying that, well, I understand that the amenities block that are there now being used by the public are going to be demolished. And I just question why we want to demolish them if they're still serviceable. Because if the public aren't using those toilets in the caravan park, then that makes it more available for the people in the caravan park. So I question why we want to spend $113,000 as I did last year. Because I don't think it's real good value for money. I don't know what anyone else thinks, but they were the two things that I spoke about last year, and I'm on the same page again this year.
I can talk to that, Michael, if you wish. I guess those projects which you're talking about are kind of under the one banner of the total of the Port Turton Caravan Park long-term project. The public amenities block, which is on the far boundary of the caravan park, just up the hill from where the jetty is now. Whilst that was put through as a bit, I believe that's in the unfunded. So worth considering. Because obviously that's, if you've seen it, it's dilapidated. You're looking at access for the public into that area going into one of our businesses. Not ideal. And if you've seen how close that is to actually one of the caravan park sites, you wouldn't want to be put there. But that's in the unfunded allocation for later consideration. This particular upper level amenities block, yes, it is quite a bit of money, but something that's required due to the fact that the current facility that they have there is not to specification. The amount of patronage that is at the Turton Caravan Park. Be aware of it, recent successes in gold medal. It speaks to, I guess, the ubiquitous strengths of that location and close to Flardy's Beach. They've done a wonderful job in marketing. Unfortunately, they made a rod for their own back, and for us, so it does require some attention.
Thanks, Ben. I've certainly been and have a look at it. So in the upper area of that caravan park, how many sites are there?
I can get that for you, Michael.
Ready. Let's go down to number 13. Just down. Just down a bit.
Whoops.
Yeah.
And can I ask a question then? I understand that there's going to be an expansion in that upper level for future sites as well. Would this new amenities block cover that expansion, like Sid's indicated in relation to a multi-year project? Might help Mr. Murdoch if he understands that there might only be 10 or 8 sites now, but if they're looking at creating another 20 sites in the future, that might be where the amenities block up the top level might be of benefit going forward and maximising the wonderful returns that bring it back to council at the moment.
While Ben's looking for that, I can reaffirm, yes, that is definitely the plan. There is, I guess, a plan for a bigger expansion or redevelopment of that top area, and that will be workshopped with council in the next few months around the entire plan for that top level. Yeah, this budget line here is purely, this project is purely for the toilet block.
So we don't know how, we're still not sure. There's not many sites up there. I can't remember. I did count them last year. I think I quoted the site, but there's not very many. And also, if that caravan park has won so many awards, and which is outstanding. Look, I'm not running the park down one little bit. I'm just thinking maybe we could look at other ways of spending this money. If it's won so many awards, surely if the facilities were as bad as we're saying or we think they are, there would have been some pretty negative comments about that, and it would have won an award.
Just to that, Michael, the only negative comment about the park, and it's a consistent comment, only on the negative page on the con about it, is the facilities and the state of facilities. I can say that, and that's been shared through recent feedback forums.
You'd probably find that in most caravan parks.
Yeah, that's true.
Just in answering Adam's question before, if elected members look at the unfunded budget piece handout, the last item on that, number 40, is what Adam was referring to, the bigger redevelopment of the upper level. And Ben can add to that if there's any questions.
Also, hands up, guys.
Okay. Plan.
When we started, we went for a drive 3 years ago around to Turton. It was talked about moving this toilet block off the side of the caravan park, so you didn't have public people walking onto the caravan park. So I think this is definitely an urgent thing to be done. The new amenities for the public, and also I'm in agreement of, any money spent on the Point Turton Caravan Park is going to come back to council within a year or two. So it's saying if the level 3 extension is done, that the revenue would be about 160 to 250,000 annually. So it's going to pay for itself pretty quickly. clearly it's just flat out over here. I mean, I've never in 30 odd years seen what it's like over here at Flardeys and Point Turton, Hardwick Bay. So it's great for tourism, but we do need to supply good amenities. So I'm in agreement with any money spent at that Point Turton Caravan Park for the future, and to continue with the strategic plan that we discussed with that third level 3 years ago. So this has been on the cards 3 years ago. COVID's made it extremely urgent now, and we need to be moving forward for the caravan park and, you know, the great publicity it's getting, and for tourism.
Yes.
Can I just clarify, Leanne, the toilet block you're talking about is the one on the edge of the cliff, is not the one that is here at number 13. At number 13 in the caravan parks list is the toilet block on the upper level, which is a new toilet block, has been budgeted partly in this year and then additional funding for next year. The toilet block that you were talking about has been put in on the unfunded to be replaced with a new toilet block on the jetty.
That's where I saw that as well. So I'm in agreement with both of those to be done very soon. Yep. So I reckon I read that unfunded as well. So, yep. And for the third level extension, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Tanya.
Sorry, now I've just confused myself. Can you just clarify, Sid, the toilet block by the jetty, so the ground level one that the public also use, is that included for some sort of upgrade? I'm just thinking that it's great to support the caravan park, and I agree with Leanne's comments that I think we'll see a good return on our investment there on that third level. But if the ground level toilets that are also used by the public who use the jetty become quite decrepit, then that's probably not a good look for tourists either. So is that included there to have that refreshed?
No. So no, Tanya. So what's included is the third level toilet block. So brand new toilet block on the third level, funding this year and additional funding next year. What's on the unfunded list is a request from the Point Turton Progress Association to put a new toilet block at the jetty, and they requested that for 125,000. Staff have significant concerns that it'll be north of 200,000, and that's one reason amongst a number of other reasons, and not having the funding as well. That's why it's been parked. Now that jetty toilet will not be funded, cannot be funded out of the caravan park bucket. It will have to come out of general funds.
Yeah. Can I just make a note?
Yeah. Yes, Darren.
Yeah, I think we need to be careful that we don't play caravan park projects, compare them with the other unfunded projects that aren't part of the caravan parks. You know, that we've got a strategy, funding strategy around the caravan park there, and the whole idea of that strategy was to fund and grow those caravan parks with a percentage of the profits there. So, I mean, I'm in favour of getting this upgrade done in Point Turton, and I think it's an essential part of the caravan park strategy. So that would be my thoughts. And we have to think about the other amenities. They might be important, but just got to separate so the caravan park funding is not confused with the general budget.
Does everybody understand that now? Tanya?
Just another comment. But obviously the jetty toilets are patronised by the caravan park visitors. So it's not like that toilet isn't, it's in a close vicinity to the caravan park. So it might not be necessarily on their land. I'm not sure if it is or not, whether it's part of the I sort of thought it was part of the caravan park facilities, and it just happened that the public also have access to it.
That's right. It's on the Caravan Park site and is utilised by park users and also the visitors of the jetty general public.
I think the plan was
So
always.
in that case, Roger, then we should be considering that, upgrading that as part of the Caravan Park funds, or at least some of the funds.
As I understand it, this one would place it down closer to the jetty, so it's not part of the Caravan Park.
Yeah, if I can clarify, the current public toilet, which is in the park, used by the park as well as the public, would no longer be a public toilet. In all honesty, probably demolished, and a new public toilet would be placed down near the jetty, which would be, I guess, a true public toilet. So that's why there's nothing going into the park, hence we can't justify using the park money to fund it.
Right, okay. So have if they remove those existing toilets on the ground level, is there another facility at ground level, toilet facilities for the park patrons?
Yes, there is internally, and they're fairly old, fairly run down.
Okay.
And it's undersized, so just looking at the SA Parks minimum standards or guidelines for amenities at caravan parks, and they indicate that you need at least 4 showers and toilets for the total park site. 5. Currently, there's 4. Then with the planned extension, as we've talked about, and activating the upper site, which is going to bring another 20 powered sites, you multiply that by the patrons at each site, it will be undersized, hence the reason why they're looking at adding this additional ablution block at the top.
Yeah. So is it the one down the bottom, if that's not adequate, is there perhaps more of an immediate need to upgrade that? I'm not sure about a number of unpowered sites or powered sites for that matter, campsites that would utilise that ground level ablution block.
If the extension goes ahead and the new toilet block is built where it will be built, then the current one that's sitting there will be adequate.
So would it be adequate in terms of the number of toilets and showers, but just needs to be refreshed?
I don't think it even requires that, Tanya. But it's been maintained. It's been maintained really well. Yeah. So the issue with the current toilet, the ablution block, I shouldn't call it toilet block because it's shower facility as well, is that it can't take the current capacity of the caravan park.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Kristen.
Hi, yeah, sorry. Can I just clarify? So the toilet that is in the caravan park at the moment, to my knowledge, like being down there as a local person, is rarely used by people that are at the jetty that are not already staying within the caravan park. So is what you're saying that the idea is to put a new block by sort of toward the jetty boat ramp area, and if that's put there, the other block's going to be demolished? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think that's where the confusion comes from. So there is an existing toilet, an ablution block, which is for the caravan park.
Yeah.
The actual facility itself on the caravan park, there is an additional public toilet facility, which sits quite close by the jetty geographically by the fence line, and there are steps to access it from outside the caravan park to the public. So it's open to the public, it's signposted, etc. Not ideal, but 2 separate. One is a toilet facility, which is that one, close by the jetty, and the other is the ablution block.
Yeah.
The unfunded funds that we were talking about are for the toilet facilities. So there's hope to relocate those down closer to the jetty, demolish those, make that another site in the caravan park itself. The ablution block, which is funded, which we're talking about here, number I'm just trying to bring it up, sorry. Number 13 in the caravan park capital. That's for a dedicated ablution block, which will not only service the middle tier, but for the third tier, which will likely be activated in the long term. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Tanya?
Thanks, Roger. Just a quick comment about the Black Point fence. I haven't had a close look at it just recently, but it mentions about people climbing over the fence and going and sort of causing erosion. I'd suggest that if they built in some steps from the caravan park site down to the beach, then that would avoid people scrambling down the cliff at different points. So that might be actually a better investment than putting a fence up, which then people will probably just hop over and climb over to go down the cliff anyway, in the parts that aren't very steep. So if they're going to do some amendments to that fencing, I would suggest they put in at least one access gate and some steps that then clearly provide some access from the park down to the beach.
There are some there, Tanya, but I think Goldie wants to have a say on that one. Goldie?
Yeah, there's 2 sets of stairs there already that exist at the front. So, yeah, no access is required.
Right. So that people just don't use the steps. Is that the thing? They're just going down any which way.
I think sorry.
You go,
Goldie.
Also, probably kids that are staying at the park, they're jumping the fence and playing around on the cliff edge where it's probably not quite too steep. So they're just probably enjoying themselves more than anything. It's not people actually accessing the beach. It's probably more so kids, playing up.
Okay, so there's probably not much we can do about that, I guess. I'm not sure whether a fence would stop them unless it was a really high fence, which you don't particularly want there, I wouldn't think.
No.
Yeah, we've already tried previously. We actually put in longer iron droppers. We put in extra 2 wide horse wires. We've had a fair crack at trying to, I don't believe they're doing too much damage lately. I think it's just mainly their concern. Previously, the bushes used to grow through the old fence. They're all been trimmed back. I think the fence has been fixed up a bit, so it's probably not looking too bad.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to have another look at it, but I'm not sure whether we need to spend 15,000 on that one either.
Any other questions or comments? So basically
So I just need
what
to
we do with that 15k then, Sid?
probably, if with the 15k, if at this stage,
Caravan parks?
I'd just put it in a bucket and leave it for any emergency works, any emergency capital works that come through during the year.
So basically you're saying, or you're agreeing you want to take that out for now and just put it in a bucket for, yes, put your hands up if you're in agreement for that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, majority.
7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
10.
All right.
we'll do that.
We'll remove the 15 and just keep it as an emergency bucket for anything that comes through the year. It will remain dedicated for caravan park projects. Was there any other projects? Richard had a question, comment?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Look, on number 13, it's not clear. It's clear to me because I've been there on that same tour with Leanne, but I don't think everybody's on the same page of what toilets we're talking about, whether they're in the funded or unfunded. A diagram would have been helpful of where they are. It's a lot of money. We're talking about 113,000, then 250. I would like everyone to be clear what we're voting for, and I don't think everyone's on the same page.
Yes.
Matt?
Yeah, Matt can put it up.
Matt,
Okay.
do this. I'll send you So we can bring it up on screen.
So we get Matthew to put a map up, and that might explain a bit more.
I'll just. Just bear with me.
While we're waiting on that, is there any other projects in the Caravan Parks budget that you want to talk about? No, all good.
Before you open it up, I'll just show you where.
Did you have something to say, Anthony?
Well, my understanding of it is that the current abolition block is not quite adequate for the amount of sites there is, but the new abolition block to go up top would compensate for that and create avenues for it to be expanded, keeping it to the abolition block, and the toilet block down by the jetty is a totally separate issue altogether. Is that right?
Okay. All right. So
Yes, that's correct.
yeah, that is right.
Yeah, Benno, that's correct. So if you just follow my hand cursor, sorry, it's delaying a touch. Jetty, as you can clearly see, this is the, sorry, it's.
This is where you need the drone.
Wish we had funding for it. There we go, that's better. So here's the entry to the park. The current ablution block for the whole of the caravan park as it currently stands is this one here. So as per the SA caravan park standards, that is currently undersized for capacity. The additional ablution block that we're proposing to put in is in this geographical area here. This will facilitate this is known as the upper level. So this whole upper level here, these are the Lux pods, which you'd be familiar with, a couple of villas. And to this area here, there's a gradient as you're heading north. Left to that cursor is a storage facility for vans. So that circle is where the new ablution block will be. That will service not only this intermediate level, let's call it, but will also in future projects with the activation of this top site here for another 20 or so power facilities and potentially villas, service that area there as well. So the ablution block that we're talking about in the funded caravan park capital expenditure is for this location here. That will bring it up to specification and also will include some future proofing. The unfunded section, just the toilet block that we're talking about, it sits right here. And the access to it from the jetty is through some stairs and a gravel walkway, which is here. So the unfunded projects were from the Progress Association to address this shelter facility here and include an additional toilet facility, and I don't think it was fish cleaning facilities, but that's in a separate area. So that would be built, I think, in that location, or that was the proposal.
Yes.
Should that happen, we can then go about demolishing this old, very old toilet facility. And if you look at the footprint, you could potentially get 2 other cabins or villas there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I hope that clears it up. Unfunded is for a toilet facility and shelter facility from the Progress Association here. The Caravan Park ablution block is for a purpose-built facility for Caravan Park patrons only in this location.
Does everybody understand that? Richard?
Look, I do understand it, and thank you, Ben, for that. The 113,000, I think, is justified completely. But the removal of the existing cliff top toilet that is used by the public and the caravan park, I would like to see $250,000 spent on that one, because then the park can use that as well, rather than go down to the jetty.
Thanks, Richard. I'd have to agree with you if I was going to chime in.
We're probably not disagreeing, but that's not fun. Well, that's not been identified for funding.
And I guess at the moment we're tackling the upper level of the block, and then as Ben works through the expansion of the park, I think that might tie in with that more than anything else.
That would be a future project.
Well, I'm completely in favour of the 113,000 being spent.
All right.
Thank you.
Does everybody else agree?
Just to clarify, that is 113 on top of what we already have this year. So it'll actually, this total block will actually total budget will be around 230,000 roughly, thereabouts, 225.
Everybody's okay with that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they put their hands up. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, moving on.
No other questions out of Caravan Park? Okay, we'll move on. Last document that I'm going to refer to is the unfunded budget bids, budget 22-23. Now, anything that wasn't funded in the previous documents that we referred to is parked on the unfunded budget bids. And councillors will be aware that during this year and last year, as federal and state funding has been made available, we've come back to these unfunded lists in addition to other sources and looked at possible projects that could be funded out of that. Hence, we try to keep this unfunded budget bids list updated.
Yep.
Happy to take any questions before we move on.
Darren, are you got a question?
Yes, I'm just clarifying that Stansbury project, which we've been talking about, sort of goes to the priority on that if grant funding becomes available.
That's correct. We will, after this workshop tomorrow, we will park that Stansbury paving project here under transport. And as new funding becomes available, this will be the first source. Looking at projects.
Any other questions? David? Unmute yourself, David.
David, can't hear you.
I haven't got a question. I'm just informing you something's just come up here and I have to leave the meeting. So that's all I'm doing. Sorry.
All right, thanks, David.
No worries.
Tanya? Tanya, you?
Yeah, thanks, Roger. We're on all the projects in unfunded that we're discussing.
Yes, that's correct.
So just number 34 was an item that I submitted just with regard to scoping out the potential subdivision and sale of the council land next to the council office. That money will ultimately be ring-fenced for the Maitland Main Street project. I was just wondering, it's obviously unfunded at the moment, but have we got some plans to progress with the subdivision and sale of that land, given that the project scope is coming together for the Maitland Main Street, but naturally there's going to be, we'll need some funds to get it off the ground.
I guess, Tanya, from my point of view, there's a little bit of a resource issue with that for us to bring it back to a workshop to get direction, and then we'll have to produce a report to get a decision from the council. Just at the moment, I can't get Sue on to do too much at the moment. She's still working on the road and water reserve stuff. We're on a tight time frame with that, and that the amount of work that's come out of that has just been immense. And we will be coming back to do a future workshop on that in the next month or so. But just at the moment, we're just stretched to our limits. We can't get back to that particular matter at the moment. So, yeah, it'll come back up later in the year, but just not right now. Adam, did you have a question?
Thank you, Roger. I think it's on page 2, the top item of page 2. It's the upgrade of the entry point of Daly Head National Surfing Reserve. I haven't actually put any projects up this year, and I must say this one for a total of $30,000 does make a bit of sense. For people who aren't aware of the location, Daly Head Road goes from the bitumen that goes between Marion Bay and Corny Point, goes to the coastline, and over preceding years has had the actual main road surface upgraded and been resheeted, except for the last, I would suggest, about 200 metres, which then goes to the entrance to the Daly Head campground. The track then follows around and goes through to basically the stairs that go down onto Daly Head Beach or Formby Bay. It's a 100k zone, and where the old works or more recent works are finished to where the campground is, it gets quite narrow. In most places you can't even get 2 vehicles side by side. So the only thing I was thinking is that if we can't fund it this year out of our current budget situation, that we consider this as a high priority for a smaller project. If we do have some available funding coming available, that's the only thing I would ask on this one. I haven't been approached by the Formby Bay Environmental Action Group or the Daly Head National Surfing Reserve, but I do see it on a regular basis. Speaking with the ranger, we've had up to 25 caravans at a time at the Daly Head campground. I went there on a Sunday, late Sunday, and there was 13, of which 12 of them were interstaters, and they're all caravans that are like 20 footers, quite large, and they have to get around a quite tight corner. So I understand Andre is doing some work on it, but that would be the only one. If we can't do it out of this budget, there's some consideration in the very near future to try and get this area sorted if we can. I don't know if there's any grant funding that would be suitable. And I understand there might be some issues with native veg and coastal protection and so forth.
Yeah, I've heard had a bit of feedback myself about that corner too. So I think at this stage, all we can do is park it at this point.
There was some discussion last week when we looked at the map and what projects were funded and unfunded. And I think Andre commented on that it needed a lot more work to determine the issues, and also tying with the HDS report on intersections. Do you want to comment further, Andre?
No.
Okay.
Darren?
No, I just want to support that. Adam's comments on that. I think it's an important part, and if we can't do it this year, we keep it on the top of the list to whatever available funding comes. That's all.
Yeah. Anybody else got any Goldie?
Yeah, just with that corner, I'll, in the near future, when I can find some time, I'll talk to the landowner about a possible land acquisition. So we have some designs down there that we need to sit down as a team with Andre and talk about. But yeah, we need to touch base with the landowner down there. It's pretty much a blind corner for caravans coming in and out. It is quite dangerous. Probably it's a bit of a blessing at the moment that last section of road isn't done because it slows traffic down. So it's a bit of a bonus at the moment, but yeah, it certainly needs looking into, and it's maybe a priority for the future.
Okay. Anybody else got any comments? Lan?
So number 2 and number 40, that we've already just discussed, the public amenities down near the jetty and also the 3rd level extension. So how do these get into happening? What happens now?
Quite simply put, Leanne, when grant funding becomes available.
Okay. All right. So they're on this list, and then grant funding becomes available, we'll apply for it. Is that what it is?
That's right. We'll come to you with prioritisation of projects. We'll leave that in your hands. As Sid alluded to previously, we're confident that grant funding allocation will become available this year. I don't think it'll be anywhere near what it has been previously, but it will become available. So I'll be up for discussion about where you want to utilise those funds.
So it says the toilets you think would be more, so they'll get a quote for that toilet near the jetty, start getting that happening?
Yeah, we can have discussions with them and say, further planning needs to be done.
Yep. And so it says on the number 40, we'll be given a business case on that 3rd level.
Yes, indeed. So that's ready to go, Leanne. I was intending to bring that to another workshop so that we can highlight that in a dedicated space. It has been done as per the councillor's request. It's a very good business case which has been put together by managers, I would say, and I think it's pretty clear.
So that would need grant funding as well?
It will, or we could look to activate on the loan, borrow money,
and then work out a repayment period. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Just all right. Sid's going to update on the.
Yep. So after tonight's discussions and increasing projects and removing projects, the first sheet that I provided, the first report, was a reconciliation to the long-term financial plan, the overall reconciliation. Sorry, the first. Let's bring that up. First one. Yep, so that tab there, that adjusted surplus now sits at 29,087, so just a difference of $3,000. Just to update you on that, so I'll leave it at that.
So where are we to from after this?
So from here on, there is another workshop after the council meeting, or that's what's proposed on the timetable. Possibly an hour after the council meeting next week, at which I'm hoping to provide the fees and charges, the first draft of that, and any other questions that you may have out of my operating budget presentation last week and the reports provided to you tonight.
Any questions? Everybody all happy with that? All right, so I think, sorry? There is general business on it. Is there anybody wants to bring anything up? No? All right, well, I think we can wrap it all up. Thanks, everyone. It's a good turnout. Seems how it wasn't going to be too flash at one stage, but all good. All right, we'll wrap it all up and we'll see you next week for council. See ya.
See you.